Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Okay, so with just a couple of brief observations or announcements. It is very good. You guys are doing a great job. You know, that we're keeping to our own personal little space and just trying to imagine that we're by ourselves. But, I mean, the reality is that we're not by ourselves and there are other people. So the doors in this building are very loud and squeaky. So if you can please close and open them quietly, or try not to let them bang or slam, just for the, other people. So there are other people here, so just have that in mind, opening and closing the doors, and any other little thing maybe just to try to preserve the silence and respect other people's sleep. So this is going to be a two-part kind of talk. The discernment of spirits is very important, and Ignatius, like we were saying yesterday, usually would give these spiritual exercises to one person for 1 month. So you can imagine yourself in silence for a month or trying to pray. A lot of things are going to come up. And usually what happens is you don't know, was that an inspiration from God, or where'd that come from? Sometimes you get some kind of movement in the soul and you don't know what's going on. So he wrote down rules to discern, to know how to discern these different spirits and motions, movements. He himself would have gone through it, because in his conversion he was a bit, as you guys would say, OTT. He suffered from vanity. That was one of his big defects and sins. He just was in love with himself. And he would have been around the time of knights and the gentlemen, the courts and stuff. He was very close maybe to courting what would have been a princess, royalty. And he just loved that, the whole thing of chivalry. So thanks be to God, he was humiliated by means of a cannonball fighting in Pamplona, Spain. He had a cannonball come through the ramparts, and it hit I think it was his left knee, and then went through the other, in between his legs, and hit his other leg, ended up destroying his knee completely. And he was forced to be in bedridden for a long time, because he couldn't do anything until his leg was fixed. Thanks be to God, that forced him to, instead of reading novels, which he would read novels, that was his thing, he had to read the Lives of the Saints and a book on the life of Christ, because where he was, those are the only two books that they had. And this circumstance of him being forced to be in the bed and read these books is what brought him to his conversion. But just to give you an example of where his vanity took him, when they tried to fix his leg and say that he was okay, they told him he was going to be walking with a gimp. He was like, I'm not walking with a gimp because it throws off your groove, Or maybe even I think he had to have a cane. And he's like, no, can you just, what can you do? Can you fix that? And look, to fix that, we would have to hang weights on the leg. And as the bone's protruding out, we'd have to saw it off. And he's like, well, let's do it. So he did. He went through that for the sake of his vanity. It still didn't work 100%. He still had a bit of a gimp. So to counteract that, when he had his conversion, he went out and lived in a cave and grew his hair out and his fingernails, because he was like, I have to go the other extreme. If this is what I was suffering from, I'm gonna, become as ugly as I possibly can. And in the cave and in these moments, he had a lot of temptations and he had a lot of, inspirations, or were they inspirations? So he went through this. So like when he wrote down these rules, this is coming after a lot of painful experience of, he became really scrupulous. Maybe there's people here that some suffer from scrupulosity. Scrupulosity would be seeing sin where there is no sin. You guys heard of that? It's a disease, a spiritual disease. It's a sickness, and if you are suffering from it, you need to have a confessor who knows your tendency, and the confessor, what he's going to do is he's going to tell you never to confess certain things ever again, because you're bringing up sins from your past, or you think this was a sin, and he says, look, don't ever confess that again. That's a scruple, and the devil's getting you there. In Ignatius' case, he felt like he was sinning when he would walk on tiled floors, because the tiles form crosses, and he thought he was stepping on the cross, and it was like, it was hurtful for the Lord. So anyways, these are the discernment of spirits, the rules to discern where they come from, whether they're good, if they're good, to accept them, if they're bad, to reject them. Okay, so sorry, I had my little bookmark fall out. So the first rule concerns those who are going from mortal sin to mortal sin. So in your soul and in your relationship with God and in your effort to reach out to Him, if you are in the state of mortal sin and it's pretty much constant, so there's no fight there to get out of mortal sin, your normal state is usually the state of mortal sin. So for those souls, the devil doesn't really have it that hard to influence you. Why? Well, because if your soul is like a castle, or if it's like a building, a castle, you've left the front door wide open. I mean, back in the day, that wasn't that big of a deal. Like, people would leave their doors open, nothing happened. You still talk to people, they find it hard to lock their doors. But I mean, if you were to do that in any other like normal city, you wouldn't be really at peace going to bed knowing that your front door was open. I mean, Venezuela, for example. I know Venezuela, people literally like walk into your house. Right now, Venezuela's in some state. But you'd hear stories of like, Venezuela, that you'd really want to try to lock your door. So if you're in mortal sin, the reality of your soul is that it's basically the door is just open. And he can kind of come in and out when he pleases. That should terrify you. It's good reading this book with Father Henry. I'm kind of having moments there where I would remember experiences that I had with him. He was very influential. Him and Father Colin were influential in my conversion. And Father Henry told me it was on my first silent retreat in my life. It was just like this with university lads, and it was only a Saturday and a Sunday. And I went to confession to Father Henry, because Father Colin terrified me. I was always just like avoiding Father Colin. And I thought Father Henry was like the nice one, good cop, bad cop. And he wasn't nice, like in the confession, he wasn't like nice to me, like saying, okay, everything's okay. Because after my confession with him, it would have been a normal confession for me, which was just like intense, like big sins in there, And he says, look, I want you on this retreat or in this weekend, you just have to think of one of those sins that you told me, and imagine if you were to die with any one of those sins on your soul, you'd go to hell forever. I remember I said that to one of the priests here, and he says, oh my God, the priest said that? He said, the priest can't say that. I'm like, well, he did. I'm here actually because of that, so Praise God, he did say that to me. He said, if you were to die with one of those sins on your soul, you could go to hell forever. Just consider that. And the way he said it to me, it kind of did shake me up, and I'm like, well, you're right. Get used to these realities. So, don't be comfortable with this state. And what the devil does is he kind of lets you know that you're okay. This is the bad spirit. The bad spirit's going to say, look, you're all right, you're fine. It's not that big of a deal. Seriously. Maybe a group of people, are living like this, but the majority, nobody lives like this. And, the people here, they're weird Catholics, they take everything so intense, and they do a weekend in silence, and they just, obviously, OTT. Which, come on, it's not that big of a deal, seriously. And, by the way, God's good, and he's so loving and merciful, that. It's not that big of a deal. Who's not, seriously, who's not doing this, or who's not in this state? Calm down. So he tries to tranquilize you, calm you down, and basically keep you in this state of numbness. And he's right, isn't he? If you were to go out there, who is not living like this? I found it interesting, when I was in my first year as a priest and I would preach against contraceptives, I had a hard time with my parishioners. This was in a parish on the outskirts of Madrid. Wealthier. It would have been a wealthier little area. And there wasn't much community there. They would just kind of live in these little gated areas, and they would come to Mass. But I preached a lot on that. Because I think it needs to be preached on. Just because I think a lot of people don't know that you're not supposed to be taking contraceptives or using contraceptives. It's damaging to God. It's blocking his action. It's damaging to you as a human being, as a person. It's not right. And I just was, in a nice way, kind of educating them on this. And I got a lot of flack. The moms, really, a lot of moms were not happy with that. And they said that you can't be getting into these guys. You need to keep things what was it? They were basically saying you stay out of the bedroom. What is the priest doing in my bedroom? And what goes on in my bedroom? Well, I don't know. It is part of my job, as a priest. And I didn't become an ordained priest to kind of just come up with my own things. I'm basically just saying what the Lord has been saying. So you can get angry with him. And I would find that even amongst a lot of Catholics, that's a thing, But look, everybody, who's not doing that seriously? Come on, it's not that big of a deal. So that's the way the evil spirit's going to be working when this person's going from mortal sin to mortal sin. What is the good spirit going to do? The good spirit bites. He kind of pinches. He gets your conscience. He goes right for your conscience. Thanks be to God we have a conscience. And the conscience is the voice of God in our soul. It says, oof. You just heard about that, that lad who died the other day in a car accident. It was tragedy, yeah. If that were you, what would have happened? If you were to die unexpectedly, and you find yourself before God with these heavy sins on your soul. He bites you, he kind of sticks you, pinches you there. And he makes you feel uncomfortable in the state that you're in because he wants you to get out of that state. It's a dangerous state. And he makes you aware of it. So it's almost, it's the opposite of the way the evil spirit works. The evil spirit's trying to calm you down, make you not think about it. You're okay. Whereas the good spirit pinches, bites, and tries to wake you up out of there. To get you out of there. The second rule, so we're going now to people they're trying to make serious progress in the spiritual life and purify their sins. And, they're growing, there's a bit of growth there. You see it a lot in people who are doing Exodus 90 and Fiat. It's called Fiat 90 or Nineveh. Yeah, Nineveh, sorry. Fiat 90, you can they're trying to get control of their life, take out these, the snacking and the lazing around and the binging on the phone, the cold showers, and they're starting to kind of think, you're getting control again and you feel it, and it's great, you're moving, you're advancing. By the way, Exodus 90 and Fiat 90, that's not something that you do once in your life. Like, you're technically supposed to be doing that every year. Oof. Hopefully that didn't terrify some of you guys. Yeah, I did. I love it. Like, yeah, I did Exodus 90. I did that. Yeah. It was tough. Well, I mean, technically, this whole like spirit of like fight and mortification, every Christian is supposed to be having that in their life. It's not something new. Well, for our society, it is like cold shower. Like, this is unbelievable. Or like fasting. Our ancestors would have a laugh at us, I think, especially the Irish ancestry. That was a tough stock. That was unbelievable. So yeah, those things should be happening every year. We're supposed to be, always on our guard. So what does he do? What does the good spirit and the bad spirit do for these people who are kind of trying to grow? Well, he says here that the procedure is the contrary to that described in the first rule. For as it is characteristic of the bad spirit to, obstruct and harass, so that you don't impede your progress. I'm sorry, I'm going to read that again. I'm trying to translate it here. So what the bad spirit does is he tries to make you sad and kind of like bite you. Like he's biting you. So you're kind of progressing, you're on your way, and then all of a sudden you experience like this voice tell you like, oh, come on, like how long are you going to really do this? Like, yourself, you're not going to make it. Things aren't going to change. Actually, like, things are probably going to get worse. Yeah, that's probably what's going to happen. Let's get a reality check here. I mean, you come on the retreat. You heard some nice things. You had some nice experiences. But I mean, let's face it. Like, you're going to go back. How long is it going to last? 2 weeks. Got midterm break, the kid's gonna be home. Things are gonna go bad, you're gonna have a fight with the husband, with the wife. I mean, your husband's not even in the faith. Like, he's probably gonna, start criticizing you for this. I mean, come on, seriously. It's not gonna happen. See how he bites you and he kind of like stings you and he kind of like, he tries to sadden your spirit, because your spirit was like, the spirit's getting elevated. We're seeing that, like this is great. Like we're gonna start progressing, and then he sees that and he comes in there with these little biting remarks and comments to get you down, to sadden you, so that you start going backwards and you stop advancing. You guys, he's a liar. He's a liar. He's probably gonna, God's probably gonna ask you to give something up that you're having such a great time with it. Like, he's probably gonna, like always, like take something from me, and now that I'm in silence and I'm getting closer to him, he's gonna ask me for that, or he's gonna ask me to do something. And you're probably gonna have to give it up. And then you're gonna be miserable because you gave it up. But look at your friends, like they're not giving anything up. They seem like they're having a great time. And you know what? They're probably gonna slip into purgatory because like they didn't know, or they weren't fully aware, and God's gonna forgive them. They'll slip into purgatory. They're doing what they want. I'm here, like, have to give everything up. And like, I know more than they do, so like, what if I don't even make it into purgatory, Like, this is, oof. You see how he lies? Like, you guys, that's a lie. He's the father of lies. He takes things that are true and semi-true, and then he twists it there in the last moment. And like, the thing is we believe him all the time. We're always swallowing those lies. And then he's got you. That's a lie. Because the closer you get to God, the closer you're getting to true bliss and peace. Like, you're created for bliss and peace. And that comes fully in heaven, but we have experiences of it here. And the amount of people that you're going to affect with your life, and you're getting closer to him. So that's the bad spirit. And what does the good spirit do? He encourages you. He encourages you. He's like, don't listen to that. Don't listen to that. It's a lie. You know what the world's like. You know the empty promises. You know what attachments do anyways. Look, if God's asking you to cut with something, you know it's because it's sucking life out of you. And you know it's not real life. You want the true life, the true experience of life. You want to be that, that powerhouse mom that's at home, and she's a source of life, and whether or not the kids are accepting it now because they're in their adolescence, it's making an impact. That's what moms do. Moms have a huge impact, massive. If it wasn't for my mom, I wouldn't be here. As far as seeing my mom suffer, crying, with the way I was living my life, it just absolutely destroyed me. I couldn't deal with that. I couldn't do it. Moms have a huge role, and then the dads. I learned to pray the rosary from my dad. Imagine that. Teaching the kids the rosary. If there's dads here, you guys need to be taking the reins when it comes to promoting piety in the house. Because moms naturally are pious. Women in general can be. Where the dads, not really. Because, that's what we're like. We take care of problems. We just, usually, throughout the day, we're thinking about different problems that we have to take care of. And then that drives moms crazy, because maybe we're not aware of what's going on, with the kids, because we're trying to solve problems. That's what we do, kind of. So, our tendency would be there. Well, if you're the one who's leading the rosary, if you're the one who's leading grace, if you're the one who's getting all the kids to go to mass, that needs to come from you. And if it's not, well, it needs to start coming from you. Because when it comes from the dad, it enters in a completely different way. It was my dad who taught us the rosary. And if it was the mom, maybe we just thought, well, that's mom, obviously, because mom's holy. Because that's what women are. They're holy, right? But men, they're not. Men, we're just a bit more brutish or simple. So maybe there's something there. There's another resolution you can write down. Men, dads, I'm gonna start leading all the prayers. I'm gonna be the guy who does that. And that's what the good Spirit does. He encourages you. He gets you going. He sees it, he gives you life and hope and strength to keep fighting. It's this life isn't worth living unless I'm fighting and I'm trying to make progress and get closer to God and bring my kids. That's what the good Spirit does. So the third rule. The third rule is on spiritual consolation. Spiritual consolation. So he says consolation is basically any interior movement that's produced in the soul which leads you to become inflamed with the love of your Creator and Lord. And when it's a true consolation, no attachment or no other distraction or creature gets in the way of that. You're just completely inflamed, he says. It can bring you to tears, if you guys have ever shed tears. Ignatius is a big fan of crying. It's very healthy, he says. You can shed tears because you're just so happy. The consolation is just so powerful and amazing that you cry. Either whether it's thinking of the Lord and how much He loves you and how much He's done for you and how He's never given up on you and how many times I've betrayed Him and how many times I've turned my back on Him or I've been embarrassed about Him or I haven't given witness. And He just keeps coming back. He just keeps coming back, and it can produce tears in you. Or you can have an experience of something you did or somebody you hurt and you weren't aware of it before, and then it brings you to tears because you're sorry. Well, that's a consolation as well. These are all good things. These are consolations. And consolation always increases in you your faith, your hope, and your charity. So your faith becomes more real. You get it. You're this is so real. It's not just a little side note. The faith is so real. And it gives you hope. Man, I'm going to go back to a hard situation. I'm going to go back to something, it's going to be difficult. But this is not the life that I'm supposed to be like holding on to, because I'm awaiting the life everlasting, the life that is to come, where every tear is dried up, where my joy is eternally increasing, which is physically impossible because we would explode. But the grace that we receive in heaven is we're going to be capable of God, which means something that should like explode you because it's just too big and we're kind of like finite. He's going to give us the grace to be capable of eternally growing. Like, what's the happiest you've ever been? The moment you've had the most peace and joy. Think about it. And I guarantee you that within that moment, there was always just that teeny little seed of, oof, it's going to go away. Like, you know, you're on vacation. It's just this amazing place. You're there with your family. Things are just so great. You're loving it. But then you have that tingling little sensation like, oh gosh, this is going to end though, because it's holidays. And then it's going to be over. But look, whatever, I'm going to live this. I'm just going to try to get as much out of it as I possibly can. Well, that getting as much out of it as you possibly can is going to be increasing. So not only is it going to go away, but it's eternally just getting like more. We can't fathom that. We can't get our head around heaven. You guys, you don't understand like what's awaiting us. This is going to be like, I always say it to the lads, because the lads have the idea that heaven's actually hell. I think it's humorous because for them, heaven is like they're going to be kneeling down for like eternity, praying with people who love to pray, folding their hands like for all eternity in mass. It's like the unending mass. Like I have to go to mass for the rest of my life, like for all eternity. And like hell is like, that's the cool place. That's where the lads are, you know, the boys. Like, you know, you have a couple pints, watching the match forever, you know. Like they get this idea that like that's where the cool people are, and then the boring people are in heaven. I don't want to go to heaven. It's boring. And I tell them, well, like that's the exact opposite. Like hell is going to be, the definition is eternal boredom, just for starts. Just for starts, eternal boredom, eternal fear. Hatred. Like we're hardwired and created for God and we're never going to see him. Ever. Never, ever. Like eternity is never, ever, ever ending. You know that we're never going to end? Have you ever thought of that? Like your soul is never going to end. It's not going anywhere. Like as far as like, it's not going to just like snuff out. It's going to live forever. Like a lot. It's going to live a lot, like up until here, and then no, like there's no up until here. It's just never ending. So like you can be in a place where like the never ending is a never ending joy and an unbelievable rapture and like ecstasy, or an eternal boredom, hatred, pain, suffering. Hell is tremendous. I think it's good to like scare the hell out of people, because like, well, you scare the hell out of them, you know? Like, you don't want hell to be a part of them. Like, not scare the hell out of you, like, you know, scare you. Like, but, like, it's real. Thanks be to God. Like, that Father Henry and people like that, you know, every now and again they say, well, look, yeah, that's a reality. And heaven is where it's at. And that's the hope that the good Spirit gives you. He's like, you know, he's going to increase your hope. Where am I going? That's where I want to go. And I want people to come with me as well. I want to get people with me. Pray for husbands, pray for your wives, pray for your kids. That's your vocation, is to get them up there. And don't be discouraged, and don't be, you know, throwing the towel. Don't throw in the towel. The devil wants you to throw in the towel. You persevere. And if you don't see it, don't worry about that. You just keep persevering. Through your suffering, you're going to get patience. And through your patience, you're going to get perseverance. And through your perseverance, you're going to get hope. Keep going. Keep taking the steps. So the fourth rule. The third was on consolation. The next couple are on desolation, which I think is just a bit more proper to us. I think we're a bit more used to the desolation, to tell you the truth. It's just like we know desolation. I think this isn't going to be new to you guys. Desolation is the name I give to everything that's contrary to what is described in Rule 3. For example, darkness and disturbance in the soul, attraction to what is low and of the earth, disquiet arising from various agitations and temptations, darkness and disturbance, attraction to what is low, agitated, extremely tempted. I guarantee you there's probably a couple of you here that were like, once we started and we entered into the silence and that whole like reality of the interior noise, that could be terrifying. You could almost have a panic attack. Maybe we should have you got the notebooks, the pens, and the tissues back there. We should probably have like little brown paper bags for people to the first hours of the spiritual exercises, and you can be in the back with your brown paper bag just ventilating, the panic attack. You can get anxious because desolation is, you're not experiencing God. You're not feeling like the prayer or like the meditations, or it's just not sinking in. This happens to us on a regular basis. Like when you go home and you're supposed to be praying for half an hour a day, at least, or 15 minutes, like it depends. We'd have to talk about that, each one of you, but you're going to be sitting there and you're not going to be feeling it. Like you got the kids and the wife, and then you got the work and like prayer. Like, oh gosh, prayer. Okay, whatever. Like I'm going to try it. I said, oh man, just like the anxiety comes in there, the darkness. And then on top of it, so if that's not enough, you're really tempted. Do you ever get that? Like when you're in adoration, all of a sudden you get this like really vivid temptation towards things that are base and low, nasty. And you're like, where is that coming from? Gosh, I'm already having a hard time. And all of a sudden I'm getting these temptations. Like, what is this all about? Then you get frustrated. Then you get more anxious. Then you reach for the paper bag because it's just too much. Like you're going nuts on the inside. The anxiety and and then to top it all off, right? If that's not enough, look at the guy next to you. The guy's a saint. That's probably that person really has it together. They've been kneeling down the whole time. They haven't moved an inch. They're probably in rapture right now. Man, what am I doing here? Look at that person. Maybe it's better if I just leave. Wouldn't that be the best thing? I'll just leave. It's not, I'm not. I'll go for a walk. Take a little walk. I find a little library in there. There's 100 different books. Bill Clinton's biography. Look at Bill. Let's just see. Look, whatever. Let's find Bill. And you're kind of drawn towards that, Bill Clinton, or could be this is real, you guys. This happens to us on a daily basis. And by the way, looking around at the other people, that's not true. Nobody has it together. We're all noobs here, as the lads say. We're rookies. And you're never going to have it together. No one knows how to pray. They've got the prayer down and they know exactly how to do it. Prayer comes from God. And yeah, we're fighting and we're trying and we're taking the steps, but don't look at the other person. Don't worry about the other person. They're a mess as well. We're all a mess. But that's what the devil's going to do. He's going to try to get you to be looking over there. And then at the end of the day, what he wants you to do is he wants you to leave. Get out. Leave. You need to leave. This is too much. Your car is right out there. We'll, discreet about it. If something came up, you got a little sick. You just write a little note, put it in the basket. No, man, I'm not really feeling so well. It might have been, was it curry last night? I'm not sure, but I don't, it's just something didn't sit well. Look, I'm just going to go, but look, thank you so much. You guys do such great work. So beautiful, for this country. We really appreciate it. Yeah, hopefully next time, the note's in the basket and you're gone. And then you're driving away and you're like, oh man, that's over with, right? No, it's not. It's in here. You can run all you want. You can go anywhere. You can be in Bermuda. But like that's a reality of the soul. It's the desolation. You're in desolation. Calm down. Calm down. Like it's okay, and it's absolutely normal. It's normal. It happens to every single one of us. Desolation. You find yourself without love, without confidence. You feel like you're thoroughly lazy, lukewarm, sad. You feel like as if you're cut off from the Lord, your Creator. For just as consolation is contrary to desolation, in the same way, the thoughts that spring from consolation are contrary to the thoughts that spring from desolation. And this here is what we call the golden rule, and this is the last one for this talk, and then we'll continue with the others. This is the golden rule. You can write that in capital letters. Golden rule. Put some stars around it. If you can't draw a star, just an X and a line through it. For the guys. I could never draw a star. I don't know how to draw a star. 2 triangles. You can put 2 triangles up, one upside down. Anyway. Underline it. This is the golden rule. This is right here the rule for spiritual perseverance and growth and excellence. Don't ever forget this one. In time of desolation, one should never ever make any change but should stand firm and constant in the resolutions and decisions by which one was guided the day before the desolation, or during the preceding time of consolation. So the golden rule is, in time of desolation, never make any moves or decisions. What does that mean? Well, first of all, you're going to want to abandon or leave something that you know you're supposed to be doing is a good thing. Why? Because in desolation, the last thing in the world you want to be doing is something spiritual. Like everything spiritual or anything that requires me to go into myself, examine, it just does not happening. There's dryness there. You're like chewing on the wall. What is happening here? I need to move and leave and go and change and do something different and occupy my mind in something else because this is too much for me right now. The desolation is too much. What he's saying is never do that. Stay where you are. Don't make any changes or decisions. Stay where you are. This is so important. The amount of people who have given up on prayer because they just don't have this rule or they're not faithful to this rule is unbelievable. Because the most important thing we're supposed to be doing is praying, because prayer is oxygen to the soul, is breathing. And the most important thing that the devil has to do is stop us from praying. So on a natural level, he uses our feelings, and through there, he gets us to run, to leave, to stop doing what we're supposed to be doing. Works like a charm. You're sitting there in prayer and you're distracted.
All of a sudden you get like a little smell maybe from the kitchen, and it could be like garlic. I go, what are they making for lunch? Maybe they're making garlic bread. Usually in this country they serve garlic bread with pasta. Oof. Bolognese. Which, by the way, anyways, we won't get into the Irish way of making pasta, but I don't agree with it. Pasta's supposed to be al dente, just a bit, teeny bit crunchy. Not crunchy, but like just a teeny bit. It's not supposed to be soggy. But maybe they'll get it right here. Maybe they know, because they're Franciscans, and St. Francis was Italian, so maybe he passed on the art of making really good pasta. Meatballs maybe, and a bit of Parmesan cheese, and nice warm cup of tea afterward. Gosh, how long? We're supposed to be here an hour. I'm supposed to be here for an hour. And it's literally been 4 minutes, and it's oh man, okay. Look, what I'll do is I'll just get up and, I'm just gonna use the toilet. Right? They're probably just think they're gonna judge me, but I was they'll think I'm using the toilet, go for a little walk, maybe pass by the kitchen, just to see really, is it garlic bread with pasta? I'm starving. How long is this even going on? It's going on until Monday. Monday. Come on. All right, whatever. Look, you know what I'm saying? The devil gets in there, and what do? You left. You made a change, or your resolutions. You're gonna make a resolution that I'm going to read one of those books that were recommended, The Imitation of Christ. All right, well, whatever, maybe 125 pages in the book, I'll just divide it up and we'll read it. Yeah, we'll make a little resolution there. We get a little bit of it every day. 15 minutes of prayer, half an hour. We'll do it right when we wake up. All right, prayer right when we wake up, get the cup of coffee maybe, and then we'll go into prayer. First week, pretty good. Second week comes, you wake up and no, really, when you wake up and it's just not happening, you're just really not feeling it, and the very thought of going to prayer it actually makes you angry. So you're well, look, if prayer is going to make me angry, I'm better off just not doing it, right? It's why should I get angry? I'll just have a cup of coffee maybe, get a bit of whatever, get a bit of YouTube in there, just get a bit of, make me feel better, and then we'll just go to work. Well, what happened? You weren't feeling the prayer, and you were in a bit of desolation, and you left it. You made a change. You changed your mind. The decision that you made before, which was to pray every day, you changed, and you were in desolation when you made that change. So we're officially breaking the golden rule. You wouldn't want to, golden rules are better not to break them, because they're golden for a reason, because they're the most important. So when it comes to this, it's the most important one. Times of desolation, don't make any changes. Stay where you are, stay put. And from there, he's going to go on to give other rules explaining different tactics that we can use when we find ourselves in desolation or in consolation. Which, like I said, these are moments where we're supposed to be, like you guys are doing, write them down, that's great. Because this needs to serve as our a basis for our daily life when we go back home. The rules, inspirations that I received, this is all to get me through right now. So it's not just for this weekend. We're learning for the future right now, for our ways of that we're going to be going through our hopefully our prayer life when we're back home. So what we're going to do now is we're going to pray midday prayer, and then after midday prayer, 1:15, we can go to lunch.